You're listening to Puma Podcast.
In one of our previous episodes, we talked about how Gen Zs form online relationships on Discord. Users of the gamer's messaging app say the anonymity the internet provides creates a feeling of a safe space for children wanting to meet new people.
So I think that correlates to the we're like thousands of miles away, but I like you, you like me. You can't do anything if I tell you stuff. So there's a bit of I'm a bit safer here. See, so I'll tell you everything. I'll have my safe space with you, and you can have your safe space with me.
But this quote unquote safe space, it's something that can be easily exploited by predators lurking on the internet. For this episode, we'll take a look at internet safety for Filipino children and what our institutions are currently doing to protect them. For Teka Teka News, this is Pidoy Blanco, Puma Podcast.
Dating apps are for adults, and children, I don't know, they don't want to sign up for that, so they go on Discord.
That was Discord user 13-year-old Lebleb. We added a voice filter to protect his identity so he could share his experiences as a minor on Discord.
So basically, grooming is like a 100% issue here. Guess it. Every girl that I've met has either met a predator or has gotten groomed. All right, they've met a predator or they themselves are a victim of one. Almost everyone.
Grooming is a form of child sexual exploitation and abuse where predators build relationships with children only to manipulate and exploit them later on.
Oh, they'll probably act like as a mentor, blah blah blah. Hi ate, ganyan ganyan. How was your day?
We also talked to Bibo. He's one of Leblev's friends who's also shared with us how predators behave online.
There's two versions of them. One's the super nice when you try to get on their good side, and the other one's just like absolute toxics who just send those type of pictures to anyone.
He's from online. Don't meet up with him is not enough nowadays.
Genuinely, kids nowadays should be taught about etiquette. You know how there are certain rules to the internet or internet safety. Like how first rule, like you shouldn't tell your age or any personal information on the internet. Like stay anonymous.
Now it's important to note here that not every children has the privilege to stay anonymous on the internet to keep themselves safe. We say privilege because at this very moment, there are Filipino children being trafficked from within the confines of their homes, perpetrated by no less than their own parents.
Every one of us has been a child. We know the vulnerability of children, especially young children, children like Julene.
That was Attorney Reynaldo Bicol Jr., Director of the Manila Office of the International Justice Mission or IJM. He spoke at an internet safety forum to give an update on the situation of commercial sex trafficking of minors in the Philippines.
Julene is a real child, although that's not her real name. And she's like many 6-year-old girls. She lives with her mom in a small house. She loves cake and wearing dresses. At first glance, you would think that she is just any typical child, innocent and happy, but being placed in front of a camera took her childhood away.
This is just one of the many cases the IJM has dealt with in the Philippines. In a survey of over 3,600 households across the Philippines and using the network scale-up method to assess the scale of harm, the IJM estimates that nearly 500,000 Filipino children suffered in-person sexual abuse and the production of new child sexual abuse material or CSAM in 2022 alone. Offenders watch the abuse happen in real time or even direct the traffickers to commit specific sexual abuses against the child.
This is 1 in every 100 Filipino children. We are heartbroken when we think of the real children that are represented in this number. Now, the second main finding of the scale of harm study is that nearly a quarter of a million adult Filipinos traffic children to produce CSAM in 2022. This is 3 in every 1,000 adult Filipinos.
IJM study also revealed that the production of child sexual abuse materials in the Philippines remained widely underreported. Attorney Bicol says cultural factors such as the tendency not to meddle in the family affairs of others contribute to why these crimes aren't reported to law enforcement.
So this necessitates increased community-based reporting. Community leaders should also seek to debunk the myths that live streaming the sexual abuse of children or selling nude CSAM photos and videos is a family matter and is therefore an acceptable way to earn money.
The study also noted that sex offenders pay Philippine traffickers as little as $25 to participate in online child sexual abuse or exploitation. In fact, in 2023, the Anti-Money Laundering Council or AMLC revealed that over 1.5 billion Philippine pesos were remitted in relation to online child sex abuse from mid-2020 to the end of 2022. AMLC's report says that 81% these foreign remittance have mostly come from the US, UK, Australia, and Canada. Which is why, aside from strengthening the community-based interventions, IJM also underscores the need for a whole-of-society approach to combat online child sex abuse or exploitation.
Survivors recommend capacity building among local officials to effectively prioritize and address cases, necessitating technical support for local governments and civil society. Demand-side governments, including the US, UK, Australia, Canada, and other European nations, are called upon to intensify efforts, increasing accountability for offenders, which includes ensuring offenders receive a prison sentence commensurate to the harm that they caused, and pay restitution or compensation to Filipino survivors, supporting survivor recovery.
We're pausing for a quick break. When we return, let's look at what institutions are doing to protect Filipino children in the fight against online sexual exploitation.
So as we always say in the Council for the Welfare of Children, you call the Makabata Helpline 1383 because basta bata, kami po ang bahala.
That was Undersecretary Angelo Tapales, Executive Director of the Council for the Welfare of Children or CWC. The CWC recently launched the Makabata Helpline 1383 to interconnect national government agencies and local government units to effectively respond to children's welfare-related complaints.
There are a lot of helplines in the Philippines but no centralized public helpline. What the Makabata Helpline is doing is to position itself as the focal helpline for all children's concerns. So if you report trafficking to us, we will take in your call, make sure it's not a prank, and refer it to the 1343 landline of the IACAT.
IACAT is short for Interagency Council Against Trafficking.
We can provide first aid because we have lawyers, social workers in the helpline.
Before launching the Makabata Helpline, the Council for the Welfare of Children says not a lot of government officers wanted to sign a memorandum of understanding with them. At the core of this hesitancy is the question on the perceived relevance of the Council in relation to what these other agencies are already doing.
We had a soft launching last November 2022. We started out with 2 cell phones, so a social media account, and zero memorandum of understanding with anybody. We wrote a lot of offices, and they did not write us back except for one. That agency office told us that they're not interested to sign an MOU because practically they are already doing that advocacy.
The CWC was created in 1974 under Presidential Decree 603 by former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. As the Council celebrates their 50th year in 2024, they seek to push for the creation of the Philippine Commission on Children to better address the needs of a large sector of the country's population.
In the Philippines, out of 109 million, roughly 36% comprises those belonging to the child sector, those belonging to the below 18 sector. So If you say the Philippines is a global hotspot for OSAIC and CSAM, you should also bear in mind that 36% of our population are children. When we push for our 19th CWC legislative agenda for children, we pushed for the creation of the Philippine Commission on Children because I think it's fair to say that 36% of the population should have their own commission, right?
Another governmental body we will hear from is the NCCOSAEC and CSAEM. It's not exactly a catchy acronym, but its Executive Director Attorney Margarita Magsaysay tells us the story behind it.
Our office is actually a very young office. So the National Coordination Center against OSAIC and CSAM is actually an office created under Republic Act 11930. So this law actually stands for the Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children and Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials. So it's a long name, but rightfully so because it used to be called child pornography. But that kind of term was frowned upon. But when you say OSAIC and CSAM, you are actually calling the crime as it is. You're not veiling it under pornography, which can be dubbed as freedom of expression, as consent, but you're calling the crime as it is and giving dignity to the child.
The said office is a substructure under the Interagency Council Against Trafficking. They are mandated by law to provide services such as emergency shelters, legal assistance, and medical or psychological services. To enhance intelligence sharing among foreign and local law enforcement, the NCCOSAEC CSAEM is also in the process of developing a database of online child sex abuse offenders and blacklisted aliens.
I understand in the United States, when the court convicts a person as an offender, they are required to register. The judge requires that person to register himself. But we can't take that risk here. So the IACAT has some sort of memorandum of understanding with the Supreme Court that whenever there is a conviction, they will be informing the IACAT so that the IACAT could update their database. We hope to be also be doing the same.
In one of our previous episodes of Gen Z e-dating, we have seen some online communities band together against predators by streamlining reporting mechanisms and even overthrowing the leadership who are complicit. And this community-driven approach in Discord is something we can learn from in the fight against online child sex abuse. Sociologist and gender expert Ash Presto tells us more.
When it comes to protecting the younger people, whether we're talking about young adolescent girls, young adolescent boys, the queer community, we have to have what we call a whole of society approach. So as we see here, you already have online communities themselves having collective actions to report predatory behavior online, but that's not enough. You have to have regulatory mechanisms coming from the government, specifically PCW, DICT, etc. And you also have to demand more policies from these applications so that they can also protect their users.
On pressuring social media applications to do more in preventing this crime from happening, the United States Senate actually recently held a hearing to grill CEOs of tech companies from Meta, TikTok, Discord, Snap, and X, formerly Twitter. Here the exchange between Discord CEO Jason Citron and US Senator Dick Durbin.
I mentioned we recently launched something called Teen Safety Assist, which works everywhere and it's on by default for teen users. That kind of acts like a buddy that lets them know if they are in a situation or talking with someone that may be inappropriate, so they can report that to us and block that user.
Mr. Citron, if that were working, we wouldn't be here today.
International collaborations on law enforcement against online child sex abuse definitely helps. And given that UNICEF dubbed the Philippines in 2016 as the global epicenter of the livestream sexual abuse trade, our government should be leading the international conversation on pressuring tech giants to do more against the proliferation of this crime.
Of course, not going to be easy. I mean, international collaboration is needed to make these apps accountable since one government cannot pressure them alone. So at the end of the day, if just one of these sectors is left, doing all of the job. Like, kung lahat lang nakaasa ka sa online communities, it will not work out. There has to be like a whole of society approach involving all agencies, international, local, national, and of course the community.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. I'm Pidoy Blanco. This episode was written by Ed Faraon. Our Teka Teka News executive producer is Jill Caro and our senior editor is Veronica Uy. If you found this episode interesting or useful, share it with a friend. Thanks for listening.